Hi guys, my name is Robin and today I'm bringing you my 5-star predictions. So as of the last couple of months, I have been almost exclusively reading books that I have rated 5 stars, which is crazy. I think I've just been getting to the best of the books on my shelves, the ones that I know are gonna be 5 stars. So I thought may as well make a video about it and see if all of these books that I've chosen will actually be 5 stars. So I've chosen 10 books and I'm hoping to get to them all quite soon in the next couple of months so that I can do a kind of revision of it and see which ones got 5 stars or which ones got less, and then kind of talk about why they got less if they did, because with a lot of these books, or with a lot of the books in general that I own, I pick them up either on the author or on basic descriptions of the synopsis. Sometimes they're not entirely correct or the writing style doesn't gel with me, but I've purchased them because of something that then turns out to be kind of incorrect. So I want to see of these books which ones I'm right about and which ones maybe I wasn't. So the first book that I have to talk about is The Kiss of Deception by Mary E. Pearson. This is the first book in, I think it's the Remnant Chronicles, which has 3 books. They've all been released. They've been released for quite a while. I've had this book for a lot of years now, but just haven't gotten around to it. And I don't actually know why I've been putting it off, because it sounds like something that I'm going to rate 5 stars, which is why it's in this video. But in this book we follow our main character who is fleeing from, I think it's her family. She was meant to be married off to a prince and didn't want to, and so now she's fleeing and there is the prince and an assassin following her. And you read from those 3 perspectives, but you don't know which one is the prince and which one's the assassin, which I find really interesting. I feel like it'd be like super mysterious and you're just trying to figure out like who is who. But it's also a fantasy novel from what I know, and it sounds great. It sounds quite a bit like the His Fair Assassins series, because there is an assassin and it's kind of set in those sort of times. But I'm hoping to really enjoy this. Hopefully I'm right. The next book that I have is a giant book, and that one is Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J. Maas. And this is the last book in the Throne of Glass series. If you didn't see my TBR for this month, I'm going to be reading Tower of Dawn so that I can then get to this book this year, hopefully. I've been reading this series for a very long time and I've actually loved all of the books. I think I've given them all 4 or 5 stars. But I'm pretty sure this one is going to be 5 stars, because as the books have progressed, they've gotten better and better. And this is going to be the conclusion. I'm hoping for a good conclusion. But it is giant. It's like 1,000 pages long, which I feel like it's going to take me 100 years to get through. But I love Sarah J. Maas. I'm hoping I'm going to enjoy this book. So let's see if it gets 5 stars. I can't really tell you the synopsis of this book just because it is the last book in, I think it's 7 books. But the first book is about Selena Sardothian, who is an assassin, and she goes to the, I can't remember what the kingdom is called at the moment, but to that kingdom because she is going to compete in these games, and the prince has chosen her as their champion. And it just goes from there. It changes a lot, like a lot, throughout the series. I was actually thinking back to the first book the other day and how different it is from all the others in the series, and so many things that I'd completely forgotten about. But I love this series. Hopefully it'll be a 5 star and I'll get to it soon. Alright, the next book that I have is Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. And this is an absolutely beautiful edition. I love this edition. I bought this edition actually because it was the only copy available online that I could find for this book and I really wanted to own it, but it is absolutely gorgeous. Look how pretty it is. And the end papers, yeah, it's beautiful. But I have read all of the Grisha books, actually except King of Scars by Leigh Bardugo, and I love her writing. I loved the Grisha series actually better than the Six of Crows series, which is kind of the opposite to everyone else. But this one is set, where is it? Stanford or Oxford? I can't remember which one. And there are cults, and it's meant to be real mysterious and kind of dark academia. So I'm hoping to really enjoy this book. I didn't really need to be sold on it too much. It is an adult book. I think her other ones are classed as young adult. So I don't know if her writing style will change slightly. But we shall see, and I'm hoping to enjoy it and rate it 5 stars. Okay, the next book is The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. I read The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern, I think it was 2 years ago now, and I absolutely loved it. It was just this book that I can't describe anything else like it that I've read, but the writing, it was such like a slow burn kind of story, which I usually don't like, but it interwove all of these fantastical elements, and all of the characters were fantastic, and we learned so much about them throughout that book, and all of the relationships that kind of happened throughout it, and I feel like this one is going to be the same. So this book, I think, is set in a library, and it's full of a lot of mystery. Again, I don't know a lot about it, which is my own fault. I don't really retain synopses that well, if I even read them. Most of the time I'll author buy books, which is exactly what I did for this one, and because it is pretty. The back actually was really interesting. I did not expect the back to look like this, but it is a really nice looking book, and hopefully I will enjoy it. The next book I have is Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. And again, if you haven't watched my TBR for the month, this is actually on my TBR, so I will be reading it this month and finding out if it's 5 stars or not. But this is, to my knowledge, the first science fiction novel by Brandon Sanderson. I don't actually know, he has a lot of books, but I'm pretty sure this is the first science fiction one. But I love science fiction, and I've been meaning to get to Brandon Sanderson for a long time. His writing style kind of intimidates me. Because at one point I did read half of Wallbreaker, and it took me a really long time, and I was in university at the time and just didn't have the time to devote to that book and had to put it down halfway through. So I've kind of been putting off his other books because of that, but I do really want to get to this book because I feel like it'll be a bit less intimidating, just because his fantasy worlds are really intense with the amount of detail that he puts into them, especially with their magic systems. So science fiction might be a little easier to read from him, but we'll have to see. I'm really hoping to enjoy this book. It seems to be set on war-torn planets involving spaceships and space travel, and I don't actually know what to expect a lot of, but 5 stars, hopefully. We hope. The next book that I have is Lady Helen and the Dark Days Club by Alison Goodman. This actually has a different title in Australia. I don't know if it's the same in other countries, but in Australia it's called Lady Helen and the Dark Days Club, whereas in the US I'm pretty sure it's just called The Dark Days Club. But I've had this book for a long time. I actually had it signed by Alison Goodman, and I just looked at it. It's from 2016 that I had it signed. So I've had this book for over 4 years, and I haven't read it yet. And I bought this book before then, and then just brought it to a signing. So now I feel really bad that I haven't gotten to it yet. But this book really reminds me of the Shadowhunters series by Cassandra Clare, because in this world you have like an academy where you train to hunt demons, which is basically the same as the Cassandra Clare world. But I think this one's a bit more steampunky, if I remember correctly. But I have really wanted to read this book for such a long time because I enjoyed the model instruments so much. I was looking for something else that was similar, and then I just didn't get around to reading it for years. So hopefully I'll get to it soon. I actually own all 3 books in this series. The other books are dotted around on the shelves somewhere. But I still haven't read them. So hopefully I will get to this book soon and I will love it. The next book is An Ember in the Ashes by Sabatahir. And this series, I own the first 2 books actually, but this series I picked up actually because of Sabatahir's Instagram. Because she talks about these books so much, and a lot of people like say that, you know, that she kills off her characters, that it's absolutely fantastic, that it breaks your heart. And that is a series that I really want to read. I really just want to get into the hype and see what the series is even about. I don't know a lot about it. I think there's gladiators in this. Or that our main 2 characters on like different sides of a war, something like that. I don't really read synopses. It is an issue for me, or I did years ago, because I actually have had this book for years as well. But I really hope to love this book. There seems to be a really huge fandom for this series, so I'm hoping to jump on the bandwagon and enjoy this book as much as everyone else did and give it 5 stars. Okay, we're almost to the last book. So the 8th book so far on this list is Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. And I read the Daughter of Smoke and Bone series by Laini Taylor 3 or 4 years ago now, and the books took me a long time to get through. I think each book took me a month to read, although I was in university, so that kind of took up my time. But I still really enjoyed them. I think they gave them 4 or 5 stars, and absolutely loved the series, even though it took me so long to read. And her writing is a little more dense than what I was used to at the time. But I think that now, reading her writing, if I reread the books, I would enjoy them a lot more. So I'm hoping to enjoy this book. I actually have the other book as well on that shelf over there. And it's a duology, which is great because, you know, you have the whole complete series in 2 books, which is nice. We don't get many duologies in fantasy. But this book, I think, follows Laszlo Strange, who goes to the, I think it's Planet of Weep. I've seen a lot of the like art prints for this series, and they're absolutely beautiful. And that also makes me want to read this series. I actually haven't heard that much about it, maybe because it is more of a high fantasy series that on BookTube everyone reads a lot of YA. But I'm hoping to really enjoy the series and give it 5 stars, and hopefully just finish off the series this year. Or maybe not this year, maybe next year. They are thick books. The next book I have is super hyped, or at least it was super hyped when it came out. And that is Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard. Now this book I think is one of the most read YA books on Goodreads that I can think of, because I think it has like 1 million ratings, something like that, on Goodreads, which most YA books don't get that high. And when it came out, there was so much hype surrounding it, and everyone was reading it, but then everyone kind of dropped off and didn't follow on with the series, which I found kind of strange and kind of put me off from reading it, especially because of how much hype there was. I felt like maybe I'd go into it and wouldn't actually enjoy it as much as everyone else did. But my younger sister, she has read all of them except the last book, and I own all the books. They're dotted around on shelves as well, because I think there's 4 or 5 books in the series. And she really enjoyed them, even though she hasn't finished it. So that kind of made me want to read it. So I'm really hoping that I will enjoy this book. If I like it as much as everyone else did, then I will probably give it 5 stars, but we will see, hopefully. And then maybe I'll finish off all the rest of them, but it will probably take me a year. They're pretty thick books as well. Alright, and the last book for this video is Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. I read An Enchantment of Ravens by Margaret Rogerson. I think it was last year or the year before, and it was one of my favourite books I have ever read. Her writing was so beautiful, and it was also a fae series, which is something that I also really enjoy. Since then, I think this came out last year, and I picked it up instantly. I bought the hardcover because that was all that was available, but I really wanted to read it, and then I just didn't. I don't know why. I think at the time it was because it was so big and I had to take the train to work every day and I'd have to carry it around and, you know, that kind of issue. But since then, I just haven't read it. And I really need to, because I think I'm going to love it. I got through an Enchantment of Ravens, I think, in one day, because it was so beautifully written that I just couldn't stop reading it. So I'm really hoping that this one will be the same. I don't actually know much about it, except that I think there's a wizard or sorceress, because sorcery of thorns. So again, it will be fantasy. I'm hoping to love it. I think this will be one of the ones that I'll read first, just because I'm hyping myself up so much for it that I really need to get to it. And I'm pretty sure this one will be 5 stars. If all the others aren't, I think this one will be. So let me know if any of you guys have read any of these books and what you gave them as a rating, and whether you think that because I don't know much about them that maybe I'll rate them lower, or maybe I have like the wrong idea about these books. I hope that I will love all of these books. As I said, I've been giving a lot of 5 stars recently, and that's kind of made me think maybe I'm being a bit too liberal with my 5 stars, but I'm also really loving the books that I've read, so hopefully I'll love these ones too, give them 5 stars, and maybe I'll just have shelves full of 5 stars and be happy. Thank you guys for watching this video. I'm sorry that my synopses and kind of explanations of what these books are about were so bad, because I don't really read synopses or retain them, unfortunately. But hopefully I gave you enough about the books for you to kind of get an idea about why I will think they're 5 stars, or about what they're about in general. But thank you for watching again, and I will see you next time.